century ago. It assures those still working that they too have a pact with the future. From this day forward, they have our pledge that they will get their fair share of benefits when they retire. I would like to know how you will ensure that all Americans now and in the future will receive their benefits when they retire, and also respectfully ask that you stop the limits of Social Security. For example, Elon Musk, a couple minutes past midnight on January 1st, he's done paying for the entire year.
Please, you don't need to scream at me, okay? Let me answer the question. So, the numbers, as you know, are working. We have a lot of people, baby boomers are retiring, right? Less than people in workforce. So the numbers start working very negatively for us. So it will have to be a discussion. Everything should be on the table. We'll have to figure out how we make sure that people get their benefits. But as I said before, there is no desire for bipartisanship. We tried to do bipartisan commissions. Last Congress, bicameral bipartisan, in the Senate and the House. We actually had to introduce bills. I co-led it. I have several senators, Democrats and Republicans, co-led in the Senate. No one wanted to do it. So until we have, discussion with American people during presidential election, that discussion will happen. What do we need to do? But I can tell you, everything will be on the table because we have to resolve the situation and make sure we keep promises to the people. But there is no bipartisanship of this issue. We cannot even put fiscal commission anymore on even people agreeing to do it because everything's became so partisan this Congress and no one wants to work with President Trump on the other side. So that's why it's going to be a problem. So I'm just telling you, this issue will come in the next election. It's going to be a big issue. But this issue is not going to be resolved now because Democrats do not want to work on bipartisan basis. But as a matter of fact, what Elon is trying to do, he wants to make sure that people who are abusing the system and get Social Security incorrectly, that they're not doing it so we can save this progress. That's all he's trying to do. So hopefully I answered your question, and I'd be happy to go more in details on numbers, but I completely agree. President Reagan said it right. We have to keep promises. We cannot put rug under people's feet. We must keep the promises to what we promise to the people. That is a responsibility for us. We need to make sure that we balance the system, and that is going to be a discussion that must happen and hasn't happened. President Reagan said, well, Congress 30 years to deal with that. Well, guess what? Congress 30 years past, Congress hasn't dealt with it. But Congress will have to wake up. I am. And listen, and I fought so much with my own party last year to put that commission on the floor that you don't even know how much. But unfortunately, Chuck Schumer and Biden didn't want to do it and killed it. That's reality.
Among the topics we received several questions on included the recent Signal scandal. And we received a lot of great questions on this, but I'm going to ask Stephanie from Carmel, number 120. She asked a great question on Signal. Would you like to ask it of the Congresswoman, or would you like me to ask it? We'll get a microphone too.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm from Carmel, and I just wanted to see what your plan is to address the issue with the administration talking about classified military operations on Signal. And will you demand the immediate resignation of Pete Hegseth? who demand the immediate resignation of Pete Hegseth, Michael Waltz, and the rest of the group chat.
So let me just address, no, I will not demand their resignation. That's but I'll explain you something, you know, and actually you should post all of the resignation stuff goes to the Senate anyway, so you should talk to your senators. Hopefully they'll have town halls. You're both senators that you have. So you can attend them and talk to them a little bit more. But talking about that issue, one thing that I want to share with you, I think it is actually very bad, and there is some classified and usually classified information. We have a mechanism to share that and deal with that. But there is sensitive information that might be not classified. And one thing I have to tell you, the government needs to do a better job. That we have tools for sensitive information where we can communicate with each other. So we don't have innocent mistake or just something happened by mistake. Because definitely it's not a good situation. So hopefully we'll take some, look at that and actually, because we don't even have as a members of Congress, a lot of Democrats, Republicans using Signal because we don't have any other tools. And I was very surprised when I became member of Congress that we don't. So we have tools when we go that are very deeply classified, but you don't always have to go in a skiff and be able to have this conversation. You don't even cannot do that. So I think with all of the technologies that happen in the real world, it's sad that government is so behind on everything on technology. And actually that's what Elon is trying to do. He's trying to bring technology to the government.
Our next question is from Matt in Carmel. He's number 438. Matt in Carmel. If you would like to ask your question, 438, we can get a microphone to you. Over here.
Sure. Matt? You don't have Matt?
They're allowed to ask their question though. We do want to give people the ability to do that. I hope you understand. I know and I understand that too.
Yeah, Matt.
All right, thank you. As a Ukrainian, or at least someone who was born and raised in Ukraine, would you actually support a NATO or international peacekeeping force as part of a peace agreement to end the war and also hopefully deter Russian aggression? I mean, for the foreseeable future, or at the very least, just offer Article 5 protection, like the Italian Prime Minister suggested, I want to say like a few weeks ago, or wait, maybe it was a few weeks ago, I believe. I mean, that's my question.
Thank you. I think, Russia's been allowed to get away with too much, and we have to deal with that, no doubt. Russia has been destabilizing a lot, and something happened, and this discussion's on the table. President Trump put everything on the table, and actually we need to make sure that how we can deter further. But as you know, Soviet Union wasn't taken down by weapons. Soviet Union, which is Russia, a big part of it, was taken down by energy policies and financial policies. So Russia should have consequences on that, but if we don't have good energy policies and destroying our domestic energy, we're funding Russian wars. That's the reality of that situation. So we need to be smarter. Europeans need to be smarter to deal with Russia, because Putin will go as far as he'll be allowed to go. And I think, thanks to a lot of things that happened, bravery of Ukrainian military, that what's happened, the volunteers, I put a lot of volunteers from America and around the world help with that war. Also the money and weapons that we send European, but unfortunately it was not done with a strategy to deter him further. So I think it's everything on the table, and Europeans are looking maybe to have some coalition on building, to send some peacekeeping forces there too, because we have to deal with Russia, how not to let them get away and go further, and they've been going through 2014 or 2008 with Georgia. And they cause us problems not just there, they cause us problems in Africa, they team up with China, they destabilize the Middle East and do it all over the world. We understand, that it is actually, the big problem. But we need to be smart, and we deal with countries which have governments that are quite corrupt. We have to make sure that we have oversight. That's a reality. That is a reality. We need to make sure, because I demanded to have point-to-point logistics, strategy, and oversight of money. Because we cannot be sending $1 billion of cash when our country is going bankrupt. We have to be smarter. We don't have never-ending money. We never have that. But we have to deal with Russia properly, and it will take strategy. But right now, we at least need to force them to the table, because the war is moving in the wrong direction, and we cannot further let it escalate. The situation in there is pretty tough, and I've been in the trenches and I've seen what's happening, so I'm not just talking from just, TV. I understand what's happening. It's a very difficult situation. We have to deal with Russia, and it's going to be a very tough negotiation, and a lot of things will be on the table, but we'll have to figure out what to do with Russia in the longer run. And also on top of it, how we reform some of these agencies, that we don't have all or nothing approach. If you're a member of NATO, you have full protection. If you're not, anyone can take over, millions of people can die. All these institutions that were created after World War II are not working. UN is corrupt, and this is a reality, and we need to be smart about it. So that's what we have to do. Hopefully I answered the question.
Our next question is from Joanne from Westfield, 335, involving tariffs. If you're Joanne from Westfield, number 335.
Joanne, we have Joanne.
Where are you?
I'm happy to read it for you if you prefer, but we do want to give you that opportunity.
Joanne?
Okay. Would you like to ask the question on her behalf? Okay. Thank you.
You want to do it? You want to ask on her behalf, or have Laura can do it too? It's up to you.
Right behind you, sir. Behind you. Nope. Hold that mic. Keep that mic. Your other mic is going that way.
Jessica, we'll need to go faster. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming, Congresswoman. We appreciate it. And I hope that we can be somewhat more calm and collected and have a nice conversation, because that's the only way, that's the democratic way of working out problems. My question is, are tariffs an indirect tax on Americans who purchase goods in this country? And I'm sure as a CPA, you will steer us in the right direction.
So I'll tell you, there is a short-term use of tariffs and long-term use of tariffs. And what President Trump has the tools, what he's trying to do, and we agree, maybe disagree, and some of the things I might disagree in some ways, some I agree, but what is he trying to do, which some of the things I think it's a valid reason to say, if somebody's going to tariff us, and we should in return tariff them to make sure that this country stabilizes. He wants to make sure that we bring American job back to us, to make community. We lost manufacturing, and a lot of, these jobs, loss of jobs is significant burden became for us, because a lot of people don't have these opportunities. So I think we need to make sure that we realign them. So President Trump is using tariffs right now, to try to be able to stabilize the situation. But I think,
I don't have a mic, so fair, but you do agree then that tariffs are in effect an indirect tax on Americans who are buying goods and services.
It depends. And I'll tell you why. It depends. If you have alternatives or not on domestic productions, if you do help your industry or not, it depends if you try to realign with that. Actually, President Biden kept a lot of President Trump's tariffs because it helped to realign us to have domestic production of this job. So if you use it smartly And for the purpose of end result, it actually brings growth to the economy and internal domestic economy. So it depends where they apply, how it apply, and for what reason. If you don't have some product in your country, never will have, and you're just going to be taxed for no reason, then it could be actually additional. But I think we should try to use it in a smart way and try to apply for industries and products where we can increase domestic production, where we can work with the other companies, not tariff our goods, because we don't allow our export for our farmers. A lot of these countries are blocking out. So in a lot of ways, and plus make sure that our allies also not really have distortion in the economy. So it depends on this, but they try to use it for right now for a reason to do realignment to the economy, and not for a reason to actually to add cost, because they want to reduce cost. And we have a lot of foreign countries that control supply chain, and during COVID they increased significantly prices with no reason, because they control 80 to 90% of supply chain, like China. And when they do that, they can set a fleet. So then they do that, they add so much to the cost. People don't realize that a lot of them never put the prices down. So actually that is the large supply chain. This is a true tax when they're able to jack up the prices with no justification and control the markets, because we don't have diversification, so we need to diversify this dependency. As a CPA and an economist, I have said, tell you, as a CPA and economist, it depends what it applied and for which reason, and what is the end result you're trying to achieve. Every policy, it depends what the end result you're trying to achieve. And I think as the long term across the board, it brings negative effects, but in the short-term solution to realign economy, it can actually bring very positive effects and also help with the price. We need to move it on. I refer it again. The ad as a CPA and economist with an MBA and MPA and bachelor's in international economics, I say it depends. It depends. Listen, I understand. As a long-term solution, it is not a sustainable solution, and no one is planning to do it. It is not going to be happening, but as a short-term mechanism to realign, it could be done.
Our next question is from Ann from Carmel, number 412. They're in here. Is there an Ann from Carmel, 412? Okay, excellent. We'll get a microphone to you. Oh, there's one.
Hi. Thank you for being here, Congresswoman. We appreciate your time. I'm a here locally, and I'm very concerned about the threatened cuts to the CDC. We've all just come through a very difficult pandemic that my colleagues and I have supported our community through. And I'm seeing cuts in vaccine programs that really frighten me, because we are continually seeing viruses mutate, and we need to be prepared. So I feel that this is very short-sighted, especially given the recent experience that we've all just had.
Well, I think there are a few things. There are a few things that we need, and I appreciate it's actually a very important job, and we need to make sure that we have more independent family physicians that have been acquired by hospitals that get highly subsidized more and more. But talking about the cuts in the government employment, we have over 3 million employees, in the federal government. Actually, under President Clinton, I think he got almost 400,000 employees, and no one was screaming about that. But what we need, so we still will have at least more than 3 million left. What they're trying to see how we make sure that we provide the services in more effective way, and we make sure that people that work in these agencies actually do the work for the people. Because we do bureaucracy, where we try to do everything at the federal level, and we're good at nothing. And you saw how it's happened in the last pandemic. No one was ready to that pandemic. No one was ready. And the agencies, we had oversight hearings. Pandemic happened 4 years ago. They didn't change a bit. So something has to happen because things can happen and we need to be ready for next pandemic. But agencies has to become more accountable to the people. We need to do a better job with oversight of our budget, which is congressional fault. 85% of our money we never looked at. Congress haven't looked for decades. 85%. 85% of the money. Congress never looked. So we're not authorizing spending, we haven't been looking. I actually put a working group together and put in pressure on my own party, try to do some reforms that we start doing a better job to see which programs are good, fund them better, which programs are bad. That's what we need to do. We need to make sure that looking at that and make sure that our branches are held accountable and we have best and brightest that want to come to work to federal government. And it is unfortunately not the case anymore. So I think if you're ever interested, you work in healthcare, I have advisory group I always meet. I would appreciate your input because I'm personally involved in fixing a lot of distortion and problems in healthcare. And I hope we can have a bipartisan conversation on that. And if you need your information, interested to participate, I think if we have a smaller group, we can have more productive conversations on this issue. I'd be happy to hear you and then please send your information on that.
Our next question is from Keith from Westfield, number 142.
Thank you.
Do we have? Sure. Keith from Westfield, number 142.
It's coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question is actually related to all of the immigrants that are being rounded up and deported. Are they entitled to due process, or are we? Or is the expectation that we're just supposed to take the word of the administration that these people need to be shipped out of the country without any opportunity to defend themselves?
Let me answer your question. So, listen, we're a country of immigrants. I came here as an immigrant. We still have my Yankee accent. But we need to make sure that we have legal processes and law and order. We cannot open the borders. We cannot create a system where coming here legally takes decades. That is impossible. But coming illegally, you can come here and get a lot of welfare benefits. So we have to make sure that we get that border under control. I've been at that border many times. It's insanity. So if you come here, so a lot of these people, what President Trump did it last time when he tried, if you seek asylum, wait in the other country, not getting here in the country. So there is no due process if you come here illegally because you violated the law. Period. You violated the law. You are not entitled to due process. And these people violated laws. It is violated laws, and that's why we need to make sure we take this under control. The border has to be secure because it is life of your children. It is life of you if you can't control the border. This police officer and our border patrol, brave people, risk their lives because we allow criminals to cross the border. That is wrong. That is wrong. So, for the people that entitled to due process will have, but for the criminals and who are here breaking the law, we have to put stop to that.
Our next question is from Pam. Our next question is from Pam from Fishers, number 106. That's Pam from Fishers, number 106. Pam from Fishers, number 106. I'm sorry. He didn't like it when I gave my mic away last time. Sorry.
Okay, so my question is about the VA. My best friend, he served as a combat Marine over in Iraq, and he was there when they had the open burn pits, and he was supposed to have surgery on his sinuses, but that was canceled. He has PTSD. Those appointments were canceled. He's supposed to have appointments for his knee and back. Those appointments were canceled. When is he supposed to get the health care that he deserves for serving his country?
I completely agree with you. Everyone here who served the country is alive should get the best care when they're back home. So if you have a specific issue, I first address your issues and I say a little bit in general about VA. So if you have a specific issue, and we get involved a lot, I have a good team, If you have a specific issue, please reach out to my office. We'll have David here. We'll follow up his VA. I do not know circumstances what happened to your friend, but this is an issue we help. I personally get involved with something wrong. I meet with leadership. I go talk to them, and I truly believe if they don't treat veterans well, I get on them. I want to make sure it's happening. As related to healthcare services, we actually need probably offer more opportunities for veterans to get the best healthcare, not just only in VA. And that is a discussion we should have, because not everyone can the best services at the VA level, and we should have more flexibility if VA cannot deliver some of the services, because some VAs are great, some are not the best. They have in some areas, they don't have proper staff to provide quality care. But in that specific situation, I want to make sure that you get card from David, or you give us information, and we'll make sure that we'll reach out. Thank you.
My next question is for Laura from Tipton, 332.
I sponsor a bill on that issue. I actually can sponsor a bill on the issue. I think
we'll get a microphone to you.
I have on my newsletter, so maybe you can keep in touch what I'm doing. Who we have next?
First, I would like to thank everybody who asked the questions before. Those were some really common sense questions, so thank you, everybody. And then, and thank you for coming, Representative Spartz.
Try to see where you are.
I'm right here. I'm short.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, given current events, what are you doing to rein in the executive branch and support the
you might know me well, might know I from even my state senate time, that I actually my own party when I on a lot of issues, and I work very extremely hard to make sure that our branch is doing its job, because the only way, and listen, I like what this president is doing, but I might not like what next president is doing. But the only way for the Congress to rein in the executive branch, start overseeing the spending and passing laws. No laws. Supreme Court told us we passed no laws. 85% we never look at that. So I am trying to work. I forced my party to put a working group to reform our budget act from 70s that is not working. We're not doing that. We have no people that can put spreadsheets together. That's the tough reality in Congress. So you want to make sure that your money is spent. So the only way to have oversight, regardless who's in charge. I didn't like maybe what the previous president did. I like this one, but I look at further. How can we make sure that Congress does its job? We the people do not have this. When we don't have voice and pass the laws, when we do not look at where money go in, that century, Congress doesn't look where the money are going. Quarter of a century. It wasn't created by these programs or previous. So I'm trying to change it. I got into a big fight with my speaker. That's not easy to go challenge your own speaker, believe me. But I tried to force working group, and I'm asking some Democrats for change, maybe work with us. Behind their back, some of them do. I'll be honest with you, behind their back, we had some bipartisan issues on fiscal tradition. I do not know, under this kind of, like even today, that we can even have bipartisan. Unfortunately, either it's stress, either you guys listen to a lot of, from other side, I don't know, but people don't want to get together. It's very difficult right now to find any bipartisanship in Congress. So this is the reality what's happened, and without bipartisan agreement, it cannot be reformed. So I'll do my best, what I can, but this is the reality that has to be addressed. And sometimes we have to find common ground that we should not, regardless of what you feel, we should not be spending your money without proper oversight of Congress. We should not let these agencies run wild and send check wherever they want for whatever causes. This shouldn't be happening. It's never been a before. Unfortunately, it became. So I'll do my part, and I'll try to make sure that my party at least will have a proposal how we're going to be reforming Congress, and maybe we'll get some Democrats. I'll try my best.
Our next question is from Carlos. Carlos, I don't know where you're from because you didn't answer on the form, but I do know that you're number 46. It's Carlos from number 46.
Could you answer even one question?
Do you support the judicial system or not?
Do we have a Carlos 46? I will ask your question for you. Okay, this is what Carlos R, number 46, asked. He said, what do you have to offer to the leftist and progressive Democrats? I want to feel represented by candidates, politicians on all sides of the political aisle. How are you looking out for those you vehemently disagree with?
It's actually, I'll tell you something interesting, that when I served in the judiciary, I had passed and actually worked on more bipartisan issues. That was the most heated committee in the whole United States Congress. I actually had a bill with Representative Jayapal dealing with hospital monopolies and antitrust. I actually passed a bill with Representative Raskin commemorating Thomas Paine and Thomas Paine Society. I actually worked on my amendments to defund UN with actually left degree and have oversight of some of the agricultural programs where Democrats vote with me. So I try to find in a narrow basis common ground when I can. Unfortunately, we became very far apart in a lot of issues, and no one wants to have a conversation. Everyone was scream and shout on the floor, the presentation, not to really find a resolution. Some of the issues we never agree on, and this is just reality. And then in elections, you decide who represents you, and you vote for people that you agree on. But there are some issues for national security we should be able to agree on. We should be able to have a conversation. But it's unfortunate because a lot of politics right now in the world, but I still think, we're going to be able to do some things, after, maybe reconciliation. I also try to find some, people to be able to do that, so I'm actually working with all committees right now. I have a working group to deliver reconciliation and the laws, because I'm going to reform Congress. I'm a joint economic task force. I'm running that, and I think you have a simple answers, okay, guys? But we're going to figure it out, some things, and we're going to work on fiscal issues. And even some of the issues, we might be able to find common ground.
The next question is from Nakona Kennedy Flat, number 52, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounced your name. Okay.
I'm making legislation. And you might not like it, but I'm going to pass some good legislation. I don't like the people. I do not. Yes. Well, listen. We'll all be judging results. So
it's my turn. Right here. Okay. So with Trump and Elon's Doge cuts to USAID, USDA, increased tariffs, Department of Education, what are you doing for the farmers in Indiana? Because Indiana is a farming state, and every one of those farmers lose money. And if you're not sure on that, you gave your credentials earlier, let me give mine. I grew up on a farm. I have an American FFA degree. I'm a master's level therapist as well as a PhD. So when I'm asking this question, I don't want to know for me. I don't want to know for my family. I want to know for the farms in Indiana, what are you doing to make sure that those products and those goods that they sell to other countries through USAID, through USDA, and through our Department of Education, what are we going to do? Because those are gone. They lost that revenue.
Because it's very important. I'm not just, and I'm a farmer myself. I have a farm in operation. I drive combine. I have a farm, thousands of acres that I farm. So I can tell you from first-hand knowledge, I actually write the checks for the chemicals. I actually wrote today a large check. The price is increasing for the grain prices, for all of the seed prices, for all of the regulation, expensive combines, and oil and gas that we have to pay. So I'm not just talking hypothetical. I'm actually in this business. My family, have been farming over thousands of acres in this area for years now, for generations. My husband grew up on the farm in Noblesville, and then his family, and he's always farming in Minnesota and Noblesville. So I'm not just talking that I do not know about this issue, but I'll tell you what to do with farming. And we're going to have a farm bill, and I want to work on this issue because smaller farmers are going to be destroyed if we do not continue dealing with input costs. If we have large oligopolies like John Deere creating rules that now we're overpaying for equipment that we cannot afford, we have to have rights to repair where farmers are not getting screwed by large companies and producing that. We need to make sure that we reduce regulation and some emissions, at least for farm equipment. We need to make sure that we have, they're not doing it because Congress doesn't want to have conversation, but we'll have a reauthorization of the farm bill. We need to make sure that some of these programs, like checkoff programs, that actually used by large meat processing monopolies to subsidize their political interests in DC, which actually when I put it on the floor, it was a bipartisan issue. AOC voted for it. But we will try to make sure. We actually didn't have any PPP loans, because I don't have one. But I'll tell you something. It's very important that we have farmers survive and small family farms survive. And we need to start looking at input costs. The only place we can have that discussion is the Farm Bill, because it's a must-pass legislation. So I actually just started the White House, our new Secretary of Agriculture, and I said I would like to sit down sometimes with you and have also discussion, because also Farm Bill is a health of our nation too. How we can have healthy food, so our children are healthy, we have a better choice of food, and farmers not incentivized to produce unhealthy food in mass production. How we can have more choices for food. Farm Bill is also a health bill, and we have to have competition for value and have a better, more innovative agriculture. And it's not happening. So I hope we can have this conversation. We have new HHA secretary. You might not like him, but but RFK wants to have this conversation. On the farm bill. So we might get you a farm committee for me, so maybe we'll find at least one issue we can agree on. But we need to have this discussion because it's extremely important how we can do that. And so I actually do have, if any of you are interested in farm, including you, I have agricultural groups because I have a lot of advisory groups in different counties, and we meet periodically. It's important for me to hear all inputs. I mean it. I actually get a lot of good ideas from people on the ground for a variety of things. I usually just meet with farmers, but interesting to look at people who may be not involved in farm, but familiar with farm, and have another perspective on how the farm business is, not just farmers, because we look maybe a few things, you might have a broader perspective. I think we need to look at that, and Farm Bill is going to be an opportunity after we're done with few other things, later in the summer, in August, we have a recess. We'll have a lot of town halls, and I usually do a lot of things on farming because farm bill will have to be reauthorized in September, October. And that's where the policy can happen. I'd be happy here for input. I would like to have you there. So we must not liking each other till you get to know me, but thank you. Thank you for the question.
Our next question is from Stacia from Muncie, number 329. And I apologize again if I mispronounce your name. Okay, we'll get a microphone right to you. Thank you.
Oh, the voice, I'm going to get some coffee.
Okay, I have friends and neighbors on disability. What is the plan to protect the disabled? They're taking away
This is one of the things, and I really, that should be a bipartisan issue. I'm involved with a lot of people in the disability community, one of my friends, but one thing that we need to make sure, that Medicaid that provide a lot of services for people with disability can provide better services. That's what Medicaid was intended for, to help people with disability. A lot of services were cut, and a lot of money on Medicaid go to subsidize large oligopolies that don't provide services. We need to have this discussion because we need to make sure that we have, and plus provide more choice for parents and for people with disability, including for seniors too, then more nursing home, what kind of care the people need. That has to be reformed. States has almost full control of Medicaid, and they haven't been using it very good job with that. I think this session they're trying to do it. When I was state senator, I tried to push this issue. They were not very good. So we're trying to look at the federal level how we can incentivize for bad behaviors. And that is the discussion is going to be. We have to look, because federal government is funding these programs, but state has almost full discretion on Medicaid that provide a lot of service for people with disability. We need to make sure that we do better, and that's something, every time, we talk about how much money we spend. This is an enormous amount of federal money I spend, but I think you need to also utilize more your voice at the State House. It's much easier for you to show up. They're in the budget session, and I think some of these issues, we have to figure it out, so, and if you ever need to be helpful, happy to do it. Actually, we have Cecilia Copeland-Fishers, I don't know which city you're from. She's running, there are some other one. They have a task force in the city work on disability initiatives with local government, and I try to collaborate with them as much as I can, because we need to make sure that we help the most vulnerable and that the benefits we promise, but don't waste money on people that are abusing the system, because then we'll run out of money not to help the people that we need to help.
Our next question is from Bob from Fishers, number 59. If you are Bob from Fishers, number 59, awesome. We will get a microphone right to you.
My question is simple. Are you going to vote to increase the budget deficit?
No, I'm not. And I'm actually working very hard to make sure that we come after bad stuff in the budget, to make sure that we come after all of the fraud in the system, and able to pass taxes that will grow the economy. So this is something that is going to happen. This is going to happen in May. I personally put a working group together with all variety of committees, and I'm working legislation. You don't understand how rare it is to work on working legislation. And what I would like to do, before we introduce this legislation, make sure you're going to see what is in these bills and understand what we're doing, because a lot of times we write very complex stuff, you have no idea what it is. So if you sign up, that's how the Congress does. We put omnibuses to make sure. I don't know what is in this bill. Not just you. Nancy Pelosi says, let's pass it. We're going to know later what is in it. So it's not just you. I do not know. So I do not want us to govern that people don't know what we're doing, or we don't even know what we're doing. They put it last second on the floor and say, here is omnibus, vote for it, or we'll come in primary, you or this. So what I'm going to do, I want to make sure if you sign up to my newsletters, and if I don't lose my voice tonight, I might do more town halls, but if we can have them conversations, I want to talk talk about these bills because I do not want, we have a significant fiscal crisis, and I want to make sure that we are not going to be raising deficit.
Yeah, I can't hear from.
So he says Republican Party is going to put a bill. I don't know what the mic. Yes. No, I said I will, and I did it. You know, well, that's why I want to make sure. I actually no, we did not. No, we have a budget for this. No, we didn't. We don't even understand what the discussion. This is what we're doing right now. It's instructions that is going to have a resolution. And I'll be honest with you, the biggest problem is not the House, it's the Senate. The Senate doesn't want to do any offsets to anything because they're making lots of money. Big oligopolies campaigning very hard. And that is the chance. So I am not, and that's why I am voting. I'm working right now to make sure that we can at least balance this reconciliation. So that is what I'm doing. So I can reassure you that I understand finances, I understand the significance of our fiscal situation, and I wish we could actually reduce our deficits and debt, but at least we cannot add more to it. I understand because it will cause inflation, and it will cause more problems if we do that. So that is my answer. I'm not going to let it continue increasing our deficits. It's a national security issue. But I'm trying to find solutions to this issue, and hopefully you'll be open-minded.
Our next question is from Deanna from Carmel, number 234.
You have questions about tax cuts. Some of the tax cuts, like just need very options here, question about tax cuts. Some of these tax cuts do bring growth, some of them don't, but President Trump wants to help people with lower income. So we need to figure out how we're going to use tax cuts. So that is what we need to do. So, but some of these tax cuts bring growth. There is a variety of tax cuts, and not all of them grow the economy. But he wants to make sure just smaller businesses have an opportunity for growth. So they're looking at the code. They're looking, Ways and Means Committee looking on the tax cuts. I am trying to figure out what to do with the spending so we come up the fraud and offset some of this stuff.
Okay, now we're going to go to Deanna, who's been waiting so patiently to ask her question. Thank you, Deanna.
Thank you for being here today. Before I begin, I, like a lot of you here, clearly disagree with some of the things she's saying, but I want to say that we are not going to be able to hear what she has to say if we continue to behave in this manner. This is ridiculous. You know what? We need to be civil, and we need to listen and hear both sides. I need to make that clear. I applaud her for the way she's handling this behavior. Okay, my question.
Quiet.
Okay, my question. This week, President Trump expressed his desire to end federal funding for NPR and PBS, which polling shows is opposed by a majority of Americans. Would you support or oppose this action?
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you that I will, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because unfortunately, first of all, no, I answered the questions, but I'll tell you why. I said yes, but I want to give you an explanation. I'll give you an explanation. I think we live now in the world where really, unfortunately, we don't have transparency in the media. We live in the world that media is very cheap, but the government shouldn't be subsidized as media. If you like NPR, and you can be listening on NPR, sell advertising on NPR, and then be very well funded. If somebody likes Fox, they can do the same for Fox. So you have choices. government shouldn't be paid and subsidizing media and period. They do hearings right now, and we've noticed that, almost everyone there, and actually went on NPR a few times, and I'll be honest with you, they try to be fair with me in some ways, and we talk about economic issues, and I appreciate some issues that they're willing to talk with the Republican. A lot of times they generally just attack, so I had good conversations with NPR, but I think we need to decide, and if we see that the media is very tilted, why the government should be spending, because ultimately, country is, divided in some way. Why are we spending money on providing to one side but not the other side? And what should we start funding some conservative media too? Because unfortunately, public media is not doing, news that are not tilted, and unfortunately, they become very polarized. So we have hearings on this issue. I do not know if this issue will come in front of us, but if it does in front of us, I just see so much. I've been dealing with media, a variety of media, and I even go in very hostile media just to be able to have conversations. I go to MSNBC, I go to CNN and NPR, and it's not easy. Usually my colleagues don't even go, but I'm willing to go just so we have a different views and conversation. And usually it's tough. For a politician, it's real tough. But I don't think government should be really paying money and spending money subsidizing any media. There is plenty of way to fund media now, and it's actually quite well funded anymore.
Our next question is from Ben from Westfield, number 225. That's Ben from Westfield, number 225. If you're Ben from Westfield 225, do you want to raise your hand real big and tall, or I will ask your question if you want. Okay, I'll go ahead and ask it for you. So this is from Ben from Westfield. He said, I've been a registered Republican since 1976 in Hamilton County. Always voted for Dick Lugar. Why have Republican Congress members not rein in President's illegal, unconstitutional orders?
Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
You want me to answer a question? I'll answer a question. Executive orders, it's not a way to govern. But until Congress can pass a law, executive orders been governing our country for a very long time. And unfortunately, to pass any law right now, it would take 60 votes. So, in the Senate, we cannot pass anything. I'll just tell you reality. It is reality. And unfortunately, right now, I agree. And unfortunately, right now, there is no taste to do anything bipartisan. So everyone voted a partisan vote. So that is the reality what's happening right now. Congress is not going to, until Congress decides that Congress is going to do a job, so it's not going to happen. And right now, I agree with you. Congress has to pass laws, has to work on issues, but Congress cannot come to an agreement. And until the party agrees to deal with this issue we agree on, nothing is going to happen. And the same situation was happening under Democrat president. No one would talk. So right now we have President Biden who running wild. Our president, now presidents do, and I do not like this because I might like executive orders today. Honestly, I don't know what's going to happen in 4 years. So I'm willing to try to reform our institutions that we start doing its job, and I do as much as I can in a short majority. Unfortunately, it will take more than me, and I hope you can talk to your senators too, because if Congress does not continue doing its job, we're going to be run country by executive orders, which is not a good thing for stability of the country. That's been happening now for decades. It Congress, we're not allowed Congress. So that is the reality what's happening. The only way we can do it if party decide that they want to work together. And I'm working extremely hard to find common ground. Actually, as a matter of fact, I passed 12 the Democrats. You know, that is not that easy. But it is very, very narrow basis. Actually, on the Democrat president, and some of them were tough legislation. But I think that is important for us to do that. It's important to find common ground, but I don't think in this environment it's happening right now because people may be upset. Maybe people have a reason to do that. Maybe people just do it for the protesting. But unfortunately, no one wants to do anything right now, and that is the tough reality. So until Congress is going to wake up, nothing is going to happen.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. This one's from Amy and Carmel, number 121. Excellent. We'll get a microphone back to you, and I'd just like to remind everyone we appreciate you being quiet so we can hear our question asked and answered. I do.
I'm Amy from Carmel, and I work in the affordable housing field. Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it. What will you do to ensure that those who are most vulnerable will have access to decent and affordable housing, especially those who are elderly and or have disabilities?
There are few aspects to affordable housing. One became the price of housing, become not just unaffordable, it's becoming unachievable, not just for people, you know, on the lower income, but even the people in the middle income people. And I think you've seen the prices, and it's a combinations of things, so we have to deal with the pricing. If we don't deal with inflation, mortgage prices are going to go up, so we have to deal with spending and inflation because it's become more and more unaffordable and achievable. But we also need to make sure that how we can stop this inflation and have a better economy for people with disabilities, for people, including seniors. You know, we right now, Senate, I did a calculation. We on Medicaid for providing seniors, you know, nursing homes, we spend enormous amount of money. Seniors don't get the services, and you saw that a lot of them don't even go to seniors. How some of these programs for the most vulnerable actually go directly to help most vulnerable and have them make a choice. You know, what is the best care? Our Department of Child Services spend $50,000 per child per year. 5 to 10 goes to foster family. I was asking, where is the rest of the go? We can send to people to Harvard Business School for $50,000 a year. Where the money going? It's some kind of services. And no one could give an answer. These programs are getting very, very expensive. So I said, let's just, you know, give them cash. It's cheaper than we're going to save money. So we have to start reforming some of these programs to allow people to actually need this help, to make sure they get it, but not all of this groups of intermediaries and everyone, whether it's health care or the PBMs, you can see how much money made in pharmaceutical, and people cannot get affordable pharmaceutical. It's every area. Where is the same for services, whether it's nursing home, whether it's foster care. We have all of these intermediate agencies spend enormous amount of money, give to a variety of organizations, and I go on the ground, and I have some very poor communities in my district, and the money are not there. I actually had a bipartisan bill that I passed with the chair of education committee at that time, Democrat, on juvenile justice prevention for at-risk youth. Because I've seen what's happening if we don't deal with kids early. You know, the kids get into criminal justice system and then we try to get them through jails. We passed legislation. We were sending money to the state. It doesn't go to the ground. So we need to start looking how the money go, where they go, why we keep spending money, and nothing happening. So I think that's what we're trying to do, make sure we reform these programs, that we make sure the benefits for the most vulnerable, for people with disabilities, seniors are protected and improved. We need to do better benefits. I see how people struggling, but we spend more money, benefits don't get better. We have to have better outcomes, we have to have better health care, and look at how we can reform, and that's what we're going to look, because you always have limited amount of money. We don't want to be doubling taxes on all Americans. We want to make sure that we keep taxes low, and by make sure with money we have, we do a better job. And that's what we're going to start looking at some of these programs, including for the most vulnerable.
Our next question is from Richard from Zionsville, number 273. Richard from Zionsville, number 273. I'm not saying I'm going to go ahead and ask Richard's question, and he had a very specific question I thought was great. We got lots on Social Security. Are any of our Indiana offices being closed? Richard from Zionsville wants to know.
Indiana offices?
That's what he asked.
Yeah, I don't know. If you're aware of anything, I don't. We try to keep all our offices closed too. You know, and if you're not mean to my staff, I'll keep my office open too. If they feel very, you know, they feel very worried about that, we'll have to make appointments because my job is also make sure that we keep people safe. But I think, you know, we're going to look, you know, I know there is a lot of drama with a variety of agencies and everything else, but honestly, we're trying to make sure that we automate, bring technology, and make some of these agencies work better for you. And that is really seems like a common sense. We should all agree on that, but maybe it's very hard for us to agree. So I understand, but hopefully we'll find common ground at least in some of the issues.
We have another question from Tanya and Fishers, number 257.
Okay, good.
Tanya and Fishers, number 257. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ask Tanya's question for her, scanning the room, making sure I was here. Tanya from Fishers asks, please provide more detail of your involvement/efforts to DOGE and why you think that this will help your constituents here in the 5th District.
So I want to make sure that, maybe we're getting too tired, but I think I'll at least go to 7:30 and then we'll have a personal questions, whatever you want to do. Okay, I'll just stay around here for another half an hour and do that, but let me just finish it, please. Let me finish a little bit, you know, thank you, appreciate it. So let me finish a little bit, a question about DOGE, you know. So I came from the auditing world. I came from the auditing profession, and in a lot of things when people come, this is a lot of business people from IT world, and what they're trying to do, they try to automate some transaction and do like some simple accounting things, you know, and the government really is so behind on all of that that you would be very surprised how bad it is. You know, the simple transaction dispersed with no authorization, you know, with no approval and justification. I don't think you would be running your own business like that. None of you would just have your banking account run like that. So this is the people from a business world, so I have a good understanding of what they're doing, and I'm trying to work with them, and I work with them quite closely, I'll be honest with you, but I want to make sure that things that are bad actually don't go eliminated through Congress, and not because that is job of the Congress to make sure that the bad stuff and fraud goes through Congress. So my job is working with them to make sure that we can pass proper legislation, that we don't have to be continuing dealing with fraud and abuse, and keep the promised benefit to the people, and have a better system to monitor how your money are spent. That's what I try to do, but I work very, very closely with them personally, and unfortunately, they're so loud, so probably you don't want to listen to me in all of the details, but if you're very interested, I will be providing more information, and I send my newsletters and always give details on different things, but hopefully you can agree through things with me in the long run.
We have a question from William from Westfield, number 172. William from Westfield.
I'm walking. Everybody, let's go.
We'll get a mic to you in just a second, sir. Thank you for being patient.
Walk out.
We have
solidarity. Walk out. Walk out. Let's go. Walk. Get out. Tell them
Okay, we have a question.
Walk out.
We have a question from William from Westfield.
Walk out. Let's go.
Okay.
Walk out.
I'm not working.
Just a little bit, sir.
I can tell you this, that I would not be standing close to the Congresswoman because she's going to get hit by lightning for all the lies that she said.
But this is graph from Congressional Budget Office. Actually, a lot of Democrats don't like, and Republicans don't. So if you don't like, and actually, listen, CBO is not perfect, but if we wouldn't have CBO, the country would completely run wild, and we would completely bankrupt the country. So actually, Congressional Budget Office right now, that's what the graphs are. They not done from me. I don't create them. They do this graph, so this is the reality. In my party is now questioning a lot of this, what CBO is counting, because they don't like some things. And I said, well, you cannot just change accounting when you don't like the result. So I pushed back on my own party and I said, we have to be accounting the same accounting. We need to make sure, and I am not allowing them to change accounting methods, and then it's going to be a big fight with the Senate. So we'll see what the Senate is going to come. Senate wants to change accounting. I don't think it's right. And I am not agreeing to that. And that's a resolution. We're going to see how it's going to come. I haven't seen it. Senate probably going to vote next week. And if they're going to change baseline, I'm not going to be supporting that. So maybe for a different reason than a lot of, but if Senate is going to change accounting methods to show that tax cuts have no effect, I am not supporting that. We need to be honest. We need to see what is going to economy, what is not, and where is the bad stuff. We need to start balancing the books. And CBO might be not perfect, but we need to have them. So that's what substance is big on the table, but that's what this graph said. They're not created by me. Be happy. You can look online and see that. This is all CBO numbers, so that's came from. They have reports. They do that, and I send them. Yeah, it's from their reports. Yeah, I'll be happy. And if you want to email, I provided. This is the handout they do. They actually issued New Economic Outlook yesterday. So this is probably from my August town hall I did on the fiscal issues. But yes, from yesterday might have a little bit different, but I don't think it's much changed.
We have a question from Melissa from Carmel, number 362. Okay, we'll get a microphone to you.
I'm going to get any easy questions or not? Oh, no? Okay. Toughens me up. I'm telling you always the truth. You might not like, but I'll tell you always the truth. You might not agree with me, but I'll tell you the truth.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Let's listen to Melissa, please.
I work at a school, and we've just learned that Trump signed an executive order to completely eliminate the Department of Education, which funds the majority of our school. I could lose my job because of this, and I want to know why this is in the interest of Hoosiers like myself.
So Department of Education is not what's teaching kids. It's people like you are people on the ground. That's what's teaching kids. Department of Education, average salary of $140,000 a year, that's not what teachers get paid. So we're not talking about moving, taking funding away. We're talking about actually giving this funding to the states more directly, so we eliminate some of the bureaucracy. And it's very interesting. Let me tell you, one issue when I was state senator, I disagree with a lot of issues with teachers union, but I work on the regulation of teacher profession, and they did not like all of the federal testing. That is one of the issues. I'm working to help them to provide more flexibility, that they're not teaching to the test, and the teachers have an ability to actually teach kids, and the teachers are rewarded properly, not regulated non-stop with no more regulation than even state do. So in the meantime, we have to think also how we make sure when we send money to the states, we also make sure that states use this money well, because no, they don't always use this money well. That's a different discussion. But we try to see how federal government can do better job of things we should do: national security, protecting the border, have strong military, have interstate commerce, and some of the issues give states ability to innovate and educate kids better, and the more teachers better, that we actually have best and brightest coming into profession, which become very hard. I taught a little bit, I taught at college a little bit, I taught at the public accounting, I didn't teach at schools, I was high school ambassador for some schools. I've seen how tough it is. I have children in schools. I know how tough the job is, but I can tell you education is not acceptable. But right now, our educational outcomes is not acceptable. Our kids are spending more and more money, and our kids don't get knowledge and be able to survive in a society that is fast moving and requires a lot of new skills. I cannot believe we cannot teach reading, simple mathematics, and kids and some simple things. So we have to think about that. And colleges, with the debt that kids accumulated, destroy an opportunity for them. A lot of them with enormous amount of debt and worthless diplomas have to work a big part of their life just to pay off their debt. That is driving very perverse incentives and outcomes when they don't have that. And it's interesting now because it's also some of the high end, including under President Obama, was more bipartisan issue about educational outcomes, but now it became so partisan that is definitely no one wants to deal with that, but we have to deal with education of our children because it is national security crisis because only 30% of our kids for educational health reasons are able to join the military, are eligible to join the military. 70% of our kids are ineligible. That is not a good idea. So we have to think, so I want to make sure that the money, we're going to fund education, and if we have to good causes, we're going to fund better and come after fraud and abuse, but not a lot of bureaucrats that don't help education in DC. So I think the department did a terrible job in DC. You know, they're doing a terrible job, and we need to do a better job on the ground and help states to deliver better.
I'm sure you're all aware we have less than 30 minutes left, so I want to tell you, I know you appreciate my reminders, how much we appreciate your decorum and civility. I have a question from Christy in Kokomo, number 336. Okay. We'll get a microphone right to you. Thank you so much for your patience. We've got one coming over that way soon, I'm sure. The floor belongs to Mr. Keller, sir. Let's listen, please. It's not your question. Let's turn to the person whose question is now. Thank you.
First of all, Congresswoman, thank you for coming. I know you've seen a lot of what's happened in America and with town halls here recently, and you didn't have to do this, so we thank you for coming. And I'm also, you said it yourself that you're not used to town halls like this, so I'm proud of my fellow Hoosiers that we're getting involved with the process. Our question, you often talked about supporting jobs in the economy, yet you voted against protections for steel workers and automakers in this district, as well as a workers' right to organize, federal workers. You also support an administration that's allowing DOJ to basically cut Social Security and Medicare by removing $880 billion from the departments that administer these services, programs that many working class Hoosiers all depend on. Can you explain how these actions align with your promises to protect American jobs and help working families?
In spite of a lot of things that people talk about, I actually work with a lot of issues with a variety of unions. And there are some issues we might agree, with some issues we disagree. Actually, in healthcare, that's one of the issues that is wage suppression as for union labor and as not for union labor. And I told them I can be very strong ally, and we had good meetings recently with them, and I said we can work together and agree on that. I always been supportive of competition on the market, but I never been a person who believed that union cannot exist. I think union actually can be very helpful to organize if they serve the people, and if their leadership serves the members, they could actually help in some ways, because when companies come to places like Indiana, and we try to bring manufacturers to Indiana, and we don't just compete with Illinois and Michigan and Ohio, we compete with Tennessee, Texas, Florida, Carolinas. I want to make sure that we have good energy prices, we have water resources, which is requires for a lot of type of jobs, and we have educated labor. And if union has provided this labor, that's fine, but I am not going to support to mandate it, but I'm not against to help good leadership of good unions to deal with issues. And I'm working very closely. I have a variety of them in my district north of here, and we're trying, and President Trump is very supportive, and he actually put in charge of Department of Labor my colleague, who actually lost the race at very pro-labor union, which a lot of Republicans didn't like, but he doesn't look at that union and anti-union. So I do believe the competition should happen. I believe in right to work, but I also believe we can work with unions, and if they have good leadership, They can help the member to have good jobs and have more organized labor, where we can say when the company comes to Indiana, we have trained people, we have good people, but they need to offer value. We are not going to be just do protectionists if they're not helping members, and a lot of things were happening in the early 2000s. It wasn't happening. They were not really, serving the members, the leadership, always separate leadership and the members. And a lot of things happened that, in a lot of other perverse incentives that make industries move to China. We need to bring them back, but we need to be smart, and I'm very open to work with unions, and I have been working with a variety of them, so I always try to find common ground, and if there is any specific issue you are interested, I'll be open-minded regardless of politics. I just said I believe in right to work. I believe in right to work. I believe in the choices. I believe in that. But if unions want to organize, I have no problem with that. And I'd be willing to help them to organize well. But I just said to you, I think I answered your question. I think I answered your question, but hopefully we can find some.
Okay, our next question is from Gail from Cicero, number 473. That's Gail from Cicero, number 473. And I know we've lost some folks, so you may hear my voice more. I'll ask Gail's question for her. She said, do you feel you represent all voters in your district, and do you consider carefully your decisions in light of all constituent wishes? And she added in, based on phone calls, emails, postcards, etc.
Yeah, and I do, and actually, referendum is always an election, right? So if you believe, you will never be able to agree on 100% of the issue. I always say I don't agree with my husband on 100% of the issue, but I try to do my best. First, when I look at my decision, see on the law and decision how constitutional it is, because my first oath is to Constitution. Then second, I look, what is the majority of people in my district think, right? And ultimately, I won Senate, and I won 2 elections in here, so ultimately people believe that I did the right thing, majority. I would like to see more common ground and more people from other side be open-minded and vote for me on some issues beyond the party, but ultimately that's a choice you do. You might like someone else, and that's a choice, as we have decided in election. But I do meet with a variety of groups on every issue. I do not take side until I listen to all of the sides, and I try to figure out what is the right call. So I meet with some of the group that disagree with me very vividly, and it's not easy. I'll be honest with you, this town hall wasn't easy because I know there are a lot of people with maybe different views, but I didn't want not to have it, even though, as you know, I wasn't advised by security people, everyone, to do it. But I felt like we still need to have a conversation. Regardless we agree, I need to hear you, I need to hear your voice, I need to hear your frustration. Hopefully I can address some, maybe some I cannot, but hopefully you stay in touch with me and stay in touch with the office, and we'll have more of that. And I think I appreciate you coming. I'll be honest with you, I do this town halls for a long time. No one else does it, and most of my colleagues advise against it, but I always do that, and I've done it, and we never had such a participation. So when I started going more participation, we moved, and I tried to find venue a little bit closer by previous venue after we sent a letter. I don't know, maybe we'll start doing stadiums, but I think you might not show up next time. So, but what I'm just saying, we always thought about doing something, at the here at the on 191st Street, the fields, football fields over there. But I was like, well, that's a little bit complicated, right, in Grand Park. So this is probably not that far and everything else. So we'll try to stay in touch, but ultimately, I hope we can have this, and I hope, we can have this conversation, and we might actually even agree on one issue. Here, so hopefully maybe we'll agree more. But I appreciate the questions, and I'll try to do my best to listen to all of the sides, and you can make the decision in November, and ultimately always have a choice.
We have a question from Jack and Carmel, number 150. Jack and Carmel, 150, okay. I will ask the question. He said this is a constituent request. How have voter service requests to your office changed in 2025? And he noted especially Social Security and appointments. I'm not entirely sure what he means by that, but he did also add thank you.
Okay, well, I think when we actually try to streamline website, it's going to launch website that is a little bit easier, but we haven't done it yet. Hopefully it's going to be soon. Our IT services are not as fast, but hopefully they get better, you know. But you always can, if you have some requests, you can do it through website, but you can also come into office or call into office. We have actually open door policy. Our offices are open. Unless I'll be advised for security reason to have by appointment, but I think, you know, regardless how you feel, my staff are employees of the federal government, so if you don't like something, that's not their fault. You know, they're not there, you know, they're there to serve you, and not necessarily might agree even with me on the issue, but it doesn't matter, they work there to serve you, so we try to do our best. And I think David has been, for my two predecessors, he's been for a very long time, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of people say, we don't even agree with your politics, but David is great. So for me, feedback about my people is most important, my employees, so if we can do better, let us know, but we try to streamline some technology and make websites. So we haven't changed anything, it's still the same, but we'll try to make sure that our website is a little bit user-friendly, because this is a generic website that we had in the freshman, and now I'm trying to make it better. So but I don't think that needs to change right now.
We have a question from Deb in Westfield, number 227. Wonderful. We'll get a microphone right to you. Thank you for your patience as one comes right over your way. Perfect. And thank you for the audience for being great listenership.
Our middle class has been dwindling for decades, and I really appreciate what everybody's trying to do with tariffs and bringing jobs back here. But what's our middle class going to do in the meantime? They're becoming poorer and poorer. We've already addressed the problem about lack of affordable housing, lack of health care, and now who knows what education is going to look like for these folks. So how do we not only maintain the middle class, but try and grow it?
Well, I think and President Trump is already there for a few more years, so that he's, you know, so, but the question, this is a huge problem, and I think we need to make sure how we can help more people go in the middle class. Actually, real estate and affordability is one of the issues that a lot of Americans, is the biggest asset that Americans own, and allow them to build some wealth and grow and be able to do it. No access to capital, where now small businesses struggle to get access to capital. That's a huge problem to the middle class. So we need to grow the economy. Growth of economy helps with different jobs, but they will also need to see how we're not creating now this environment where large oligopolies close to the government get all of the perks and benefits, and that's reality. That's a reality. That's a reality. They get grants, get subsidy, get credits. You know, they lobby in Washington D.C. and they get a lot of benefits. Where people in the middle class and people in the lower income not able to get all of this. So I think this is becoming a distortion, because unfortunately, if you let politicians to make decisions, you know, not actually the markets, you know, not you, which causes are good, but actually allow that to centralize the power, more and more money go to the wrong causes. So we have to think how the programs we have, they allow people to go from low income to go to middle class, how young people have opportunities to be able to acquire real estate and have good paying jobs. So I think growth of economy is one thing, but I think we need to look on the other side. What are we doing with financial markets? Because ultimately, no matter what it is, even small business, large business, or even family, it's access to finances, be able to build wealth, and how we can have people actually not just living in apartments, but also be able to buy some housing. So I think it's a problem and discussion we have, and we have more and more disparity now with the wealthiest people and the rest. I think this disparity has to be addressed, because if we don't have more people in the middle class, the country is not going to be as strong. So we have to look at that, and we try to look. But first, we need to re-energize the growth in the economy, because it will help. If we don't have economic growth, it's very difficult, because right now we're in trouble financially, and economic growth will help us.
Thank you. We have a question from Barb in Carmel, number 39. Barb in Carmel, number 39. Since Barb isn't here, I'm going to ask her question on her behalf. So, Congresswoman, this is from Barb and Carmel. She says, are you going to vote to continue to fund Ukraine and support NATO?
This is a question. I've always been a supporter of NATO. It's an important institution for the security of Europe. We need to make sure that Europeans do better too. We need to make sure that Europeans get to their 2% because that's in their interest. So we need to put pressure on them. We need to make sure that Europeans have smarter energy policy because that's an economic interest and we can help in a lot of ways for them. I am not going to be sending blank check to anyone. I am sorry, we have go bankrupt. No blank checks. We need to have strategy and we need to know where the money are spent. And let's just be very honest, we're dealing with a lot of foreign governments that leaves much to be desired. Okay, let me just stop at that. So we need to be smarter. You know, I mean, any government have to oversee, but when we send money of Americans to foreign countries, we need to be smarter. What we're doing and what it is, you know, so I think that's going to be a conversation about foreign policy, which will be broken. But as you know, strength of NATO is also have to be from inside. Americans cannot constantly pay the check to everyone. We cannot constantly do that. We have to make sure that we have some, they do their job too, and Europeans step up in that too.
Our next question is from Dylan from Westfield, number 293. Wonderful. He's right over here, so we'll get a microphone to you very shortly, sir. Thank you.
I really do appreciate you being here. This is not the friendliest environment for this particular evening. After you elected to Congress, you swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, so help me God. Since you took that oath in January, the current administration has repeatedly ignored the plain text of the Constitution by illegally dismantling agencies established by acts of Congress, your branch, even putting Elon Musk in charge of deciding which funds appropriated by your branch will or will not be spent. The President and the executive branch have stolen your exclusive constitutional authority over appropriations. As our elected representative, you should find this completely intolerable.
Microphone, it's not working.
So my question is, when are you going to live up to your oath, defend the Constitution, and reclaim the powers that the voters of this district have reserved for you? In other words, when are you going to start doing your job?
To hear the answer to this really important question, so let's be quiet so we can hear the Congresswoman's answer.
My oath to the Constitution I take extremely serious, more than anything else. And you might disagree or agree. I actually departed with my party and did quite a lot of things, including the certification of election. I departed with that issue, so I do take it serious and look at things. The fiscal issue that we all the Congress looked at, regardless what we like or not, and I honestly, a lot of things that President Trump do not like, but I want to make sure that you understand, Congress doesn't look at the 85% of what's happening. That is a broken system that we have to fix. So I am trying, so let me answer the question. I am trying to fix, because regardless, what we like or don't like, Congress needs to start doing its job, passing laws, and look at our appropriations. I am one person, but I forced the Speaker of the United States House to put a working group, and hopefully we'll have some result to how we can reform our budgeting. It's broken. So the question of the presidential branch and the money spending, impounding money, that's a constitutional question, probably should go to Supreme Court to decide, because it's an agreement on that disagreement on that issue. What they can do or not, but what I try to do, regardless what they do, if Congress believes it's right, we have to put it in our appropriations, our reconciliation. If we believe it's not, so we have to start passing law. What did we pass? CR again. We continue passing CRs because it's been neglected for decades. So I've read Constitution, I understand Constitution, that's why I try to change structure. And I fought with my own previous speaker. I took my own speaker down because he didn't want to do his job. And that is not very easy. And I'm working with this speaker to try to figure out how we can do a job, which is not very easy to do coming after your own party, because I believe beyond that, I need to start doing job. You might like my words, but not. But when I have no ability even to vote on that, you have no representation or someone else who is going to be in this office. So we have to reform the structure. Until that structure is reformed, nothing is going to happen until we pass in CRs and do this. So right now I'm working on reconciliation that will have a vote of the House and the Senate, which actually can be done with 51 votes, not 60. And we are going to have things in there you're going to see. So you'll be able to see what I vote for and what we agree with President and what we not. We have actually deliberation with White House right now, with the Senate and the House, and we have to come to an agreement, and you'll be able to do it. So hopefully we'll have some good results. I do my part to find some solution to some of these issues. Unfortunately, it will have to be done on a partisan basis. Our appropriations in September will have to be bipartisan. We'll see where we're going to get there. It's very hard, but we'll see where we're going to get there.
Let's hear the question asker, please.
The point is, I want you to take those votes. What I don't want is for, after you pass whatever budget, the power that you have to allow the president, a co-equal branch, to say we will not spend that money that you are on the record allocating. So Musk, who has no constitutional role, is deciding where the money that you've decided gets spent. That's wrong, and you should want to reclaim that authority.
And that, we have to go to the general, whether I agree with it or not. I agree with you. And the impounding by that branch has to be resolved in the Supreme Court, because it was passed in our 70s, and that is an issue. That is an issue. So administration is argued one way, Congress another way, and that is, a lot of people believe it's a constitutional issue. The president can't do it. The Congress set the maximum level. If they can do better job with less money, they should be able to do it, because that's government efficiency. And a lot of Democrats believe in that. I think this is an issue the court probably should take and resolve and decide it. But regardless what it is, Congress has an ability to direct a lot of this spending in a different way if we pass specific bills, but we don't. We didn't pass it in appropriations for a very long time. All of this stuff done through CR. All of this spending, this is not appropriations. We cannot even come up with appropriations now for a very long time. I mean, this is a reality. This is not money that we're appropriating. Let's just be honest. It's not. So we are not actually passing appropriation. Congress hasn't been able to pass appropriation under previous Congress, with previous branch, and in the current. We cannot even do that because Congress is not doing its job. And I try to do as much as I can to make the Congress to do a job that I even launch a fight against both parties in Congress, which is very hard. Very hard, and I'm trying to do something with this Congress, because I can do so much, but as much political capital I spend in to fix this, I don't think anyone else, but I'll try to do my best, because I have an agreement with you. Congress has to be appropriating funds, Congress has to be passing appropriations, and we are so deep in the hole that we need to have and actually have a task force to at least move the needle, or some fiscal commission at least move the needle, and we are not doing that here.
We have just 5 minutes left, and I have a wonderful question from Deb from Noblesville, number 84. I don't know if you're still here. Back? Okay, we'll bring I think she's actually, yes.
She was dead.
So this will be our last question. This is Deb from Noblesville.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I wrote this question 3 hours ago. I have no idea what I wrote, so...
We'll bring it back to you, actually. And I apologize. I've only been using first names because I'm trying to be polite. But we realized there could also be more than 2 Debs from Noblesville, and that's my error. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. First of all, thanks for having this forum. I think we've heard a lot of opinions tonight. My question, words are great. Words mean nothing if there's no action. So my question is, based on the feedback tonight that you've heard, what are you going to do, and what will you have the courage to do?
I want to make sure that, and we might have actually less than deep disagreement with what you're saying, but let me tell you, I want to make sure that we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that Congress is actually start doing its job, and I will do to make sure that Congress has as an institution, and I pick a big fight on that. That is number one thing. Number two thing, I'll make sure whatever it takes for us to make sure that we come after fraud and abuse and save programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid for the most vulnerable and make it better. Because we have to promise the people, we took people's money. I know that you all have concerns, and I know that you hear a lot of different things. But I'll tell you, what we're trying to do, what I personally trying to do, is to help to make sure that these programs become fiscally sustainable, that we don't have to be increasing taxes to all Americans, that we have an ability for growth of the economy, and we want to make sure that we have a good paying job and have an opportunity for people to go into the middle class and not just for very few on top. So I want to make sure to do that. I understand your frustration with President Trump and Elon and Dodge, and they were elected by majority of Americans. That's a reality. That's a reality. President Trump was elected to be president, and he is by majority of Americans. I know, by majority of the vote, okay? Let's just say that, majority of the vote. I know that you're frustrated, but I hope, and I know you're frustrated with Elon Musk. He just helps to audit things. As you know, he doesn't have the power on the vote, right? So he helps to show transparency. The Congress will have to decide to put it law or not. And this is the reality. I know that you're very, very well frustrated, and I'll work on some farm and healthcare. We find little common ground here, so that's good, because maybe we can actually be able, but I hope you stay engaged. I know that, a lot of you frustrated, a lot of you may be upset, but I want to thank you for coming. I know that probably some issues you don't like to hear what I have to say, but hopefully we'll find some things that you like. And hopefully we'll have a discussion and conversation and continue, this dialogue. So hopefully I appreciate you that you didn't make it so bad that my team will refuse to do next town hall. So I appreciate it very much. Hopefully I have now my voice for another 2 hours tomorrow. But I'll stay a little bit here if you have any particular questions for me and my team. I'd be happy to stick around for a little bit. I think we have it till 8 o'clock, but if they allow us to do it, I'll do that. And I want to thank everyone, and hopefully we'll continue this participations in town halls. But thank you so much. May God bless you and your families, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So we received a great variety of questions that we're hoping to go through as many as we can. We've been organizing them based on topics. And I do want to start with the question that was posed to us by Karen and Fishers. Your number 155, and it's a question regarding benefits upon retirement. The way we'll do this is I will offer up, if you want to ask your question to Congresswoman Spartz directly,